ready?
Hi everyone! Girls, pucker up for my cue.
Big hello. You've reached the offices of Andrew Luke and a special edition devoted to Press Gang's Series 3 opener. So why not go ahead and give the video a like now before it unrolls facts, trivia, commentary and analysis in its feature focus. Series 2 closed with what was meant to be the end of the show. A hitherto lesser known part of the Press Gang story is children's ITV host Scally the dog.
That's right, and then following that, Teddy Ruxpin and luscious Lynda and Spike returns in Press Gang.
Following the broadcast of the big finish, Scally announced it was the last, and this wouldn't do. The programme guide by Jim Sangster and others tells us Scally called for a letter-writing campaign to get the show back on the air. It's not known how much of a part this played, but certainly some. So, good dog. Central Television came back with an order for Series 3 and 4, the shorter 6 episodes apiece, so as not to hog the schedules. Something of a relief for Steven Moffat. There were two paths Moffat and producer Sandra Hasty could have taken. As set up previously, a whole new cast of kids, Press Gang, the next generation. Moffat and Hasty felt this wasn't viable, didn't want the headache, so Hasty set about recruiting the original series cast. She had a hard rule. Actors had to commit to both blocks of 6, both series. Gabrielle Anwar was a no, as she was doing A Scent of a Woman with Al Pacino, which, as you'd expect, worked out very well for her. By and large, Hasty's 2-series rule worked, with 2 holdouts. Lee Ross couldn't commit to the back half, Series 4. He was also hoping to get a feature film role. Hasty was forced to bend her rule to accommodate him. The film never actually materialised, but by the time Moffat and Hasty were approached by Lee about getting back in for Series 4, they had already recast the part and rewrote the scripts, so it was not to be. And history sadly repeated itself with Series 5. Lee wanted back, and it was too late to change things. The other holdout was Dexter Fletcher. Like many of the cast, he was having problems because, well, he was brilliant. And we'll see in this episode just what a master of slapstick Dexter Fletcher continues to be. But he also had serious consideration given to a number of feature film roles that were being touted his way. So there were plans to write Spike out in Series 3. And the likeliest of these would have been his death in The Last Word Part 2. And I cannot imagine how that would have gone down. Oh, I'm getting chills even talking about it. Anyway, we'll get there. Annoyingly, Series 3 did not have anywhere near as much promotion as Series 1 and 2, though it built on those viewing figures of 3 to 4 million on first run per episode. A time slot on Tuesdays at 4:40 p.m, followed by repeats on Channel 4. Rightfully, as it's a begin to end top-tier series. The episode guide at yoyo.org by Adrian Petford tells us the working title for this episode was Hello, Junior Gazette, the final word spoken in Series 2, and in this episode. Still, the big hello mirrors the title of its predecessor. The Series 3 debut comes out of the gate absolutely swinging. It's a repilot. The pre-credit scene has shades of the pre-credits of Series 1, Episode 1. I love the economy of Moffat laying out the table in Lynda and Kenny's lines here.
Still, it's fun though, isn't it? Doing it for real, for a living. I think I'm going to like being grown up.
When were you anything else?
We're really entering a new phase of Press Gang. No longer is it a newspaper run by school children. This is young adults on journalistic contracts running a newspaper themselves at the benevolence of Matt Kerr. And although there's new stylistic choices in the voice, in the opening credits, and a change up of the newsroom background characters, it very much does still feel like the same show, like the Press Gang that we've got before, underscored by the Series 2 hiccups. I've been registered self-employed for 9 years now. It's the second time around for me, and it's absolutely daunting. So I really feel that that is reflected in the big hello, the fear of the unknown, of greater personal accountability and looking after employees on taking risks and where not to take risks. And after all, even Lynda, these are characters just out of childhood. So the nod to the weight on their shoulders really strikes as realistic. The episode has got a little extra zap, a little extra energy to it. Jim Sangster, editor of the Press Gang Programme Guide, has a few thoughts on this, which I agree with.
It's kind of all changed for Series 3. New opening titles, a rejigged theme, and everyone's got a new haircut as well, especially Kelda Holmes. You know, it's a very dramatic new look for Kelda. And for some viewers, it was also a new channel because this was the series where they started repeating Press Gang on Channel 4. So for a lot of fans, it's a Channel 4 show rather than a children's ITV show. We often make the comparison with Press Gang and old Hollywood screwball comedies with loads of cross-talking and the romantic tension underneath all the bickering. And I think this is the series where they really nail it. You know, especially Julia Sawalha and Dexter Fletcher really perfect the rhythm of it all. The sparring with each other, and everything's just timed to perfection. They're all young adults now, and the show kind of grows up with them. So even the lighter episodes have got a darker undercurrent. And this is where it stops being the best children's drama and starts being, I think, just a really good drama in its own right.
The most grown-up looking after Kelda is probably Colin. Series 3 can arguably be where we really get the transcendence of Colin Matthews, from school kid with smart aleck schemes for making money to the one who keeps the paper running by financial means and is a central part of his functioning process. This episode, Colin doesn't appear, suggesting he's working a side hustle and not privy to the circulation damaging drama that unfolds. In truth, Paul Reynolds' scenes hit the cutting room floor. More on that later. Fraz has a big red duffel coat, which is spiffy, and it keeps him cozy warm. Fits with Stephen Lyon's dedicated Press Gang timeline. Time in the Junior Gazette places this episode in the winter, early in the new year of year 3. 6 months after Series 2, presumably with Spike gone for all of that time, or most of it. The scene with Kenny joking about the front page is a favourite here. Very funny. The subtext is he hasn't quite got used to having people listening to him, despite his very adult attitude. The kids are still growing up. One anomaly is Tiddler in the newsroom. Established in Series 1 as years younger, her presence is never really explained. Yes, it will have been a decision to keep Joanna Dukes in the cast. Rightfully, she's full of expression and fresh deliveries. My headcanon is a deal worked out between Lynda, Kerr and Sullivan to continue taking in pupils from Norbridge on some kind of work training scheme. Sullivan wouldn't want to let the paper go without compromise after all, and a school term work experience placement also fits in well with the timeline. Maybe that's in a stash of unseen press gang social policy fanfic. This episode lays on, in moderation, Lynda's mental health issues. Autism is a safe diagnosis, right? She has no ability to understand technological processes, such as mobile phones and answer phones. There's her cowardly response to Matt Care, which perfectly expresses all the phobias. Procrastination in her defences. As established, Kenny acting sometimes as Lynda's enabler, sometimes her guide dog. Lynda often can't cope with social situations unless Kenny is accompanying, explaining, or directly facilitating.
Table for two? No, I'll make it 3. I feel lucky.
So that's an unusual line. It's non-functional, garnish only, a complete misdirect, but it is portentous in terms of Lynda. It's got that Groucho Marx quality too. Kate has taken over graphics from Sam. Sophie Newton was a mainstay in Series 2 backgrounds. However, this and an episode in Series 3 and 4 each are her last. The Big Hello introduces us to Toni Barry, who plays Spike's girlfriend Zoe, who appears in 2 episodes. Like Eileen Flitton, she is one of those actresses who, though playing a low-key supporting character, becomes a part of Press Gang's greater lore. Toni Barry has been involved, most lately, in some anime voiceovers. A few guest spots at comedy through the years with Armando Iannucci and Ben Elton, but strangely, not a lot on her roles as an actress. And in 2002, she had also done some video game voiceovers. And the most interesting fact I could find was that she was a voiceover on 14 episodes of the Teletubbies as Counter primarily and Talking Flower number 1.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Moffat and Barry lean hard into the expectations of Zoe as Lynda's rival. We're set up to side with Lynda, so Zoe is overtly dislikable, good-looking, but gobby, spoiled, but also understandable, engineers empathy. It's a good balance, and great work by Barry. The wardrobe for this episode pushes to the front the colour red. Fraz's duffel coat, Spike's shirt, Lynda's undercoat, which of course is to blend in with the red on the waiters. Beyond that plot step, it's an unusual choice by costume which can only be deliberate given the calibre of the people there. Credit to Maria Price, Myra Heller and James Lanyon. Of all the colours, red is the most memorable. Its overuse is to visually layered direction and misdirects, for there are many here. Red adds to the narrative's dynamism and zest. It may also be a reference to red tops, nickname for tabloid newspapers. That has to be an old lady overdub. Though would you look at that smile? That melts hearts. Really great setup by choreography and the crew's part here. It's dependable stalwarts on board. Director Bob Spears, editor Jeff Hogg, cinematographer James Davis. Davis is director of photography all through Series 3, an essential contributor to the show. 29 of 43 episodes, including the first and last. As previously mentioned, he worked on a huge amount of things. Moonraker, Superman, Dune, Patriot Games, Highlander, Endgame. For Press Gang related stuff, he'd also go on to work on Moffat's sitcom pilot, The Office. There are only a few minutes of the big hello showing the newsroom, though the trouble all leads back there.
Gordon Coles is a personal friend of David Campbell, who, need I remind you, owns your paper.
Hare's line is suggestive Gordon Coles may have been off screen at the dinner party in Campbell's home in At Last a Dragon. From a look at the restaurant, it's inferred he's met Lynda before. I wouldn't be surprised if the name Gordon Cole wasn't a reference or subliminal uprising from Twin Peaks. The show was a zeitgeist when this episode came out. Cole was referenced in Twin Peaks episode 3 and first heard voiced by David Lynch in episode 4, April and May 1990. I don't know when Moffat named his character. It's feasible as a connection. The hard of hearing FBI chief, Cole, would appear on screen in November 1990. This episode aired May 1991. Great expression work by Lee Ross and Clive Wood here. Kenny's grown in ballsiness somewhat. All the same, the cognitive cogs are turning. This might be quite a more serious matter than he'd previously considered. Wood really sells the potential fatality of the situation, a storm cloud over this bright new enterprise. The colour red again in the call scene. Spike wears it on the inside, Lynda on the outside. Secrets and performance, embellishing physical relativity, sexual connection, echoes and shadows. The phones amplify these themes. Spike is at a corded payphone, suggestive of him being tied to Lynda and his time in Norbridge. She's mobile and free. She's moved on. At least that's what she tells everyone. Sawalha is delightful here. The vocal delivery of the Predator moving in, and Fletcher, flexible Fletcher, be it overconfident or baby deer in headlights. As ever, great physical comedy.
Hey, is this England?
I just want to know one thing, Spike. Is your life currently passing before your eyes?
Could be. I've only got as far as the PG rating so far.
The fellow playing Gordon Coles is Paul Williamson. Born in 1929, a lengthy filmography going way back to TV movie The Cherry Orchard in March 1947. The Adventures of Sir Lancelot, Edgar Wallace Mystery Theatre, a lot of the classic British TV series of the day, Armchair Mystery Theatre, Emma, The Golden Age, Return of Sherlock Holmes, ITV Play of the Week, The Saint, ITV Playhouse, Corrie, more Sherlock Holmes, generally popping in for 1 or 2 episodes each in the series. Play for Today, Dial M for Murder, 7 episodes of Crown Court, playing Sidney Riley in TV miniseries Ace of Spies, The Jewel in the Crown, Tales of the Unexpected, The Boon, The Bill, Darling Buds of May, taking us up to more contemporary pieces, 2.4 Children, A Touch of Frost and Doctors. Active until 2007. You'll have seen him in something. 2 iconic roles in iconic commercials as the grandfather on Werther's Originals ads. He was also one of the butlers in Ferrero Rocher adverts. In the Italian versions, particularly as butler and chauffeur, he was handing out the Choco Gold. He was actually on contract for this job for 10 years. Other commitments meant he took a year out, and his stand-in was Richard Gere. Williamson also did a ton of theatre and radio work. I love that fact. Spike picking up on Cole's forgotten address book impresses that he's a much better investigative reporter than Lynda. Kenny trolling Lynda is great fun, especially as the team shares a joke. Characters in Community reacting to the situational comedy of their own lives. Fraz and Kate meet cute for the fanfic. Bob Spears sets Lynda's debriefing with a trio of judges and a re-establishing cut to an aerial shot. It's Lynda, pulled over the coals by 3 male executives in a small room. Previously, the paper was owned by Cameron Campbell, portrayed by Peter Burton in At Last a Dragon. Burton passed away shortly after that instalment. Various episode guides suggest this is the same person, David Cameron Campbell, a recast. The Big Hello is the first time Mr. Campbell has been explicitly identified on screen, here portrayed by John Benson. Born 1916, Benson worked in television from 1965 until his death in 1995, appearing in body horror movie Life Force, starring Patrick Stewart, Peter Firth, and lots of other people. He'd appear in episodes of Birds of a Feather, The Bill, worked with Spike Milligan, and appeared in the Wednesday play. Some of his choices in this scene are unusual, underwhelming, or just interesting. I'm not sure. Williamson as Coles gets much juicier material to work with.
Unless you have anything else to say?
And then perhaps you can get back to the legitimate concerns of a children's newspaper.
Adults are often the concern of children, Mr. Coles.
The physical language in this scene is captivating, especially Williamson, who seems to command and exercise authority. Campbell, on the other hand, seems almost subservient to him. He's clearly relying on Matt Kerr as a middleman, a little unsure of himself. But then Lynda has that effect on people. See how when Lynda picks up the phone, he turns to Kerr for guidance. And the Little Micro Twins by Clive Wood, Matt Kerr doesn't buy this apology. And he communicates it with just the briefest twitch. And we see that neither do the other men. Kicking off the comedy caper is Beresford Leroy as security guard with starburn-sized sideburns, Jeff Fielding. His expressive performance in Press Gang is short, but quite memorable. Among Leroy's prolific career was 1991 comedy drama Buddy's Song. The film is a Press Gang magnet. Casting director Liz England worked on both, so it features Julia Sawalha, Lee Ross, Spike's mother Sharon Deuce, and Leroy as a record shop owner. He's also appeared in Screen 1, a Murder Most Horrid episode directed by Bob Spears. He played a paramedic in Thief Takers in 1996, a mortuary technician in Silent Witness in 2000. His main role was 48 episodes of TV sitcom Surgical Spirit, starting airing around the time Press Gang Series 1 aired. Leroy played Michael Sampson, one of the operating department practitioners, ODP, and it was from a Facebook ODP group discussing Surgical Spirit where I found Beresford Leroy's current profile. He's an actor, musician, writer, public speaker, healthcare professional, and martial artist. And doesn't he look great for his age? The elevator scene seems to be just Spike and Lynda settling into being around each other again. It seems the important plot point of Lynda explaining to Spike that she replaced Folkstone's phone number in Cole's book with the Junior Gazette phone number. Yeah.
She's stupid.
But information that Spike has to make use of in the tense and surprising final scene. Of structural importance is Lynda's proposal to employ Spike. Bear in mind she is 6 months into managing the Junior Gazette. Granted, it's Colin who has books to balance, really, but she has a final say. Taking on another journalist so early in the venture, we might suspect is a bit of a gamble. The dark underside to that being is taking on Spike might mean having to get rid of someone else, but it might also be a genuine act of kindness. We've seen before how Lynda does have a side of her that's not just kind, but compassionate, and virtues such as work ethic manifest in extreme acts as much as do her layers of negativity. This is a really nice establishing shot of Eric Folkstone, played by Simon Mattacks. After time away from the TV screen, Mattacks has reappeared in the last 10 years or so in children's animation, mainly in the UK version of Angelina Ballerina and various incarnations as Mr. Mouseling.
Well, I have to admit, when you tell a lie, it's a whopper.
He's also done The Bill, Doctors, Sirens, done some video game work. Press Gang was his second piece of TV work.
Nice office for a counsellor.
That's only his weekend job. In real life, he's some kind of company director.
On paper, Folkstone has similarities with the villains of Series 1 and 2's openers. Local government dodgy cash deals. I like his performance. It impresses a different level of political corruption. Lynda's exposition paints him as a hedge fund manager type, city corporate, whereas his older collaborator may be in a more official position. It's well invested of Moffat to have two villains of two generations. In Folkstone's case, a spiv, a yuppie, a new breed that's merciless. In Cole's, it's old guard, an attitude of fire, not used to being challenged, contemptuous of any kind of talkback, penned-in establishment.
There's also a problem that's actually addressed in the episode, and we're going to see this coming back again and again from now on. Although it's still the Junior Gazette, it seems that it's just a version of the normal Gazette staffed by junior staff. The stories they're trying to cover don't feel appropriate for a children's audience. I wouldn't think that a lot of the subject matter would be of any interest at all for the supposed target audience of the Junior Gazette. One thing that is kind of prophetic is the way that Lynda uses very underhand methods to secure the story. And this all happens more than a decade before the hacking scandal exposed how real journalists employed similar sort of methods.
I've been remiss in talking about press gang in the context of journalism. The show really attends to a 1980s depiction of the industry. The printers' strike and deadline alluded to the then recent industrial dispute in Newspaper Row, Fleet Street, which changed the balance of power in British newspapers irrevocably. Then, Rupert Murdoch relocated his workforce to a privately owned print factory in Wapping, surrounded by unbreachable high fences. It was a magnet point for strikers, and in response, heavy-handed policing, and in response, rioting. A similar but much smaller strike at fledgling morning programme TVAM threatened to pull the show off the air. That fiasco saw producers man the cameras themselves and bring in non-union scabs and rats. The mass walkout in both sides of the paper may not be a conscious illusion, but certainly picks up on something in the air. Back then, journalism wasn't so stretched by the economy. Reporters could be dedicated to follow leads and verify sources necessary to avoid charges of libel.
Both these people have a record of severe mental illness. Please don't listen to a word they might have said.
Moffat particularly uses Sarah in this role. Breakfast at Czar's story is driven in paying mind to whether or not a story could be corroborated, and How to Make a Killing focused on a blend of investigative reporting and undercover stings. In 2026, the operations of newspapers have changed considerably. The rich have gotten richer, and Reach plc have gotten wretcheder. Reach plc is a company owning many local papers, and management downsizing employees and squeezing resources on a weekly basis at least. By comparison, Junior Gazette staff numbers dwarf those of most city papers, and possibly even a few nationals. Critical reporting, as it was then, barely exists. The fortnightly Private Eye is maybe the only paper that holds fast to it, eschewing digital distribution. As such, it runs stories years, sometimes a decade, before they become mainstream. Investigative journalism is still valued in print. The Mirror has, in recent years, used external sources as well as its own to break stories around COVID grant fraud and Partygate scandal. However, these often find their way to the news desk aided by reader-submitted stories and the internet, which has taken up the baton through the likes of the Byline Times, Novara Media, Turn Left, and other essential pieces of programming. Largely, the internet facilitated the acceleration of recycled news, aka journalism. Editors and journos are timid to run a story unless someone else has it first. This goes hand in hand with an inability to look at said story with a critical thinking perspective, or to verify sources, corroborate stories, the truth. Instead, the fake news realm of clickbait and generative AI and poor resources as a reason not to achieve anything. Economic pressures have meant paywalls aren't even truth walls. Essentially, everything's gone to shit. Anywho, Chekhov's gun, Chekhov's passport, Lynda's troublesome relationship with phones already set up. It's all about the phones. Cute cheeky grin by Beresford Leroy here. Mattacks, as Folkstone, doesn't really get an awful lot of lines, but he's really doing something with the bare minimum. I especially like his delivery of the plot point that's
"They've taken the wrong tape."
Meme material. An on-point musicality by composer Peter Davis. Lynda's real dumbass mistake of erasing Folkestone's number for the paper's number pays off here, compounded by the dumbass mistake of taking the wrong tape. But oh, how beautifully the two cancel each other out when acted upon by Spike. And this is Moffat at his double, triple twist, one of his best, I think, where he just piles pressure upon the protagonists at the very last moment. And he gets him in a scene that's cornering them. You think of what Vince Gilligan does in the middle of Breaking Bad with the trapped in the RV scene. It's very similar high-stakes creation. Now a writer writing themselves deep into the corner, knowing already how to get out of it. There's really a lot of drama. Kenny is pale, Lynda is silenced. You can kind of feel the rug being pulled, the ceiling falling on them. It's a moment of sheer scares. Care explicitly warns them they could end up in the clink. Then, suddenly, very quick thinking by Spike, screaming, jumping, action hero stuff. He knits the two wrongs together to make a right. And Moffat lampshades his excellent card trick with two callbacks and a call forward.
There's a bit towards the end of The Big Hello where the prime suspect, Gordon Coles, starts to explain his conspiracy in great detail. He's a bit like Benji Mouse on Bagpuss, just admitting to everything he's been doing. And we might suppose that the inclusion of the leisure complex is what makes the dodgy deals part of the Junior Gazette remit, but it's not really explained very well. And as we find out in the next episode, the parent paper spikes the story anyway. No pun intended. But then, if we're actually paying attention to Coles's confession, it's like a summary of Series 2, and he's accidentally been the mastermind behind so many things that have happened to them. He mentions the Wellside Leisure Complex, and that was the focus of Breakfast at Tsar's. And Spike found himself under the rubble of a building on Cresswell Road. So was the record shop where he got crushed by all the rubble underneath the office block that Mr. Coles was responsible for? And there's even a kind of throw forward to the next episode when he also mentions developments on the south side, and the next episode involves a newsagent who runs the south side. So there's a lot of connections going either side.
Tell you what might be best. Start disposing of all your records about previous deals. Mainly the Wellside Leisure Complex, the two office blocks in Norman Street, of course, and the one in Cresswell Road, and all the developments on the south side. And all the money that was paid you. And make sure it's all well buried in your accounting, or we're both in trouble.
And this is followed by a simple camera pan down to show you the next trick in the script, pulled off at the same time as the big one that you couldn't keep up with. Chekhov's passport. And that final little shot will form the basis of Series 3's arc. So, yes, that was the big hello. But what didn't make it on the screen? Let's hear from Jim Sangster, who's read several variations of the original script.
There are some interesting cutscenes from the script, and obviously Steven Moffat famously writes a lot. I don't want to say overwrites, but he writes a lot, and they have to sometimes cut it for timing, whatever. So there was a scene where Tiddler moans about Lynda saying a lot of really vicious, hurtful stuff behind people's backs, which she notes is something that Lynda usually likes to do to their faces. Meanwhile, Colin is plotting on multiple fronts. He asks Lynda if she thinks Kenny is right for the paper now that they've gone professional, and whether it's time they cut his brake cables career-wise. And then he goes to ask Kenny if he thinks that Lynda is right to be the editor of a new professional paper, and suggests that they start plotting with a secret file on all the things she's doing wrong.
Long-time viewers know I treat this show's reliance on phones and plot with affectionate, not mocking, but scrutinising. As you might have guessed, today's is a banger, a bringer, phone's ringing off the hook. Checks in with Lynda. Kenny establishes Lynda has no idea how to work a programmable telecommunications system. Professional outfit, the Junior Gazette, has multiple phones. Kevin is following Folkstone. Lynda is frustrated by hold, divert and call waiting. Lynda doesn't understand mobile phone technology either. A restaurant payphone allows attention to build as Spike and Lynda keep missing one another. Lynda's failure to use her mobile directs her towards the payphone. Spike calls Lynda by way of the newsroom. Coles calls Folkstone. The phone's placement publicly finds him distracted and remiss to pick up his phone book. Kerr wants a meeting. A phone's regional dialing codes and number of numbers allow Lynda's forgery. Spike pulls Lynda from the disciplinary, partly on account of her answering her mobile. Lynda finds it tricky to navigate answer phones. The security guard notifies Folkstone of a possible 209. Matt Kerr and Eric Folkstone are summoned. And unlike Lynda, Spike understands how to navigate answer phones. If you enjoyed this essay, please scroll down to under where you liked this video and leave a comment. That helps teach the KD algorithm and get the story to the YouTube racks. Thanks to all of my patrons whose names are on screen now and who receive this and other works early, as well as many bonuses. Next time, Killer on the Line, where Sarah's new hair goes into battle.